What if I told you that one of England's most infamous kings, a man history branded as a tyrant, was not only physically disabled but also a cunning political survivor, a king who ruled for just 2 years but remains one of history's most debated figures? And what if I told you that this same king's body was lost for over 5 centuries, only to be rediscovered beneath a parking lot in 2012? This is the story of Richard III, the last Plantagenet king of England. History has painted him as both a ruthless villain and a misunderstood hero. His reign marked the end of the Wars of the Roses, a bloody civil war between 2 royal houses, the Yorkists and the Lancastrians. Yet Richard's life remains a paradox, a man who defied his physical challenges to rise to power only to vanish in defeat at the Battle of Bosworth Field. So, who was Richard III? Was he the monstrous usurper portrayed by Shakespeare or a capable ruler maligned by his enemies? And what secrets do his rediscovered bones reveal about his life, his rule, and his untimely death? Stay with us as we uncover the incredible journey of Richard III. Welcome to Infinitia Verity, the channel where history comes alive. We dive deep into the past to explore untold stories, challenge established myths, and bring you closer to the truth. If you love history, legends, and unraveling the mysteries of the past, you're in the right place. Today, we're talking about Richard III, a king whose story is as fascinating as it is tragic. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Let's get started. Richard III's story begins in a time of conflict, treachery, and ambition, the late medieval period in England. Born into a powerful family at the heart of a decades-long civil war, Richard's early life was shaped by the chaos of the Wars of the Roses. Richard III was born on October 2, 1452, at Fotheringhay Castle in Northamptonshire. He was the 11th child of Richard, Duke of York, and Cecily Neville, known as the Rose of Raby. Richard's family was deeply involved in the power struggle between the Yorkists and the Lancastrians over the English throne. Richard's early years were marked by personal loss and political upheaval. His father was a claimant to the throne, and when Richard was just 8 years old, his father and older brother Edmund were killed at the Battle of Wakefield in 1460. The Yorkist cause, however, was far from defeated. In 1461, Richard's eldest brother Edward seized the throne, becoming Edward IV. This victory solidified the Yorkists' dominance for a time. A controversial aspect of Richard III's life is his physical condition. Later accounts, especially Tudor propaganda, emphasized his physical deformities to portray him as a twisted, villainous figure. Modern science, however, has clarified the truth. Richard suffered from scoliosis, a condition causing a curvature of the spine. When his remains were discovered in 2012, archaeologists confirmed that his spine curved at an angle of about 70 to 80 degrees. Despite this, historical records suggest he was a capable soldier and active individual. It's important to note that in the medieval period, physical deformities were often seen as signs of moral corruption, a perception that Tudor writers exploited to tarnish Richard's legacy. Richard spent much of his youth in the household of the Earl of Warwick, also known as the Kingmaker. Warwick was a key figure in the Wars of the Roses and played a crucial role in Edward IV's rise to power. Under Warwick's tutelage, Richard received military training and developed the skills that would later define his career. By his late teens, Richard had become a loyal supporter of Edward IV, participating in battles that solidified Yorkist rule, including the pivotal Battle of Barnet in 1471. Richard's reputation as a skilled military commander was earned on the battlefield. During the Wars of the Roses, he fought in several key battles, including Battle of Barnet in 1471, where Richard's leadership helped secure a decisive Yorkist victory against the Lancastrians, and the Battle of Tewkesbury in 1471, where Richard again played a critical role in defeating the Lancastrian forces, cementing Edward VI's reign. These victories not only demonstrated Richard's military skill but also strengthened his position within the Yorkist hierarchy. In 1471, Edward IV rewarded Richard by making him Duke of Gloucester, granting him vast estates and significant political influence. As Duke, Richard governed the north of England, a region where he became popular for his fair administration and efforts to curb corruption. He also married Anne Neville, the daughter of the Earl of Warwick, further consolidating his power and wealth. Anne's inheritance brought Richard substantial lands, though their marriage was not without controversy. as she had previously been married to Edward of Westminster, the Lancastrian heir. Richard's path to the throne began with the sudden death of his brother, Edward IV, in April 1483. Edward's 12-year-old son, Edward V, was declared king, with Richard named as Lord Protector. However, the situation quickly spiraled into chaos. Richard claimed that Edward IV's marriage to Elizabeth Woodville was invalid, rendering his children illegitimate. This claim was backed by an act of parliament known as Titulus Regius. With Edward V's legitimacy in question, Richard took the throne in June 1483. This decision remains one of the most controversial moments in English history. Was Richard acting out of ambition, or was he genuinely trying to stabilize the realm? Historians are divided. Despite the controversy surrounding his rise, Richard's reign was marked by significant reforms aimed at improving justice and governance. Some of his notable achievements include introducing measures to protect citizens from property seizures, instituting bail for non-violent offenses to prevent wrongful imprisonment, and establishing the Council of the North to ensure fair administration in northern England. These policies suggest that Richard was a capable ruler who sought to address corruption and ensure justice. One of the darkest chapters of Richard's reign involves the disappearance of Edward V and his younger brother Richard of Shrewsbury from the Tower of London. The princes were last seen in mid-1483, shortly after Richard became king. Their fate remains one of history's greatest mysteries. While many believe Richard was responsible for their deaths, no conclusive evidence has ever been found. In 1674, 2 skeletons were discovered in the tower, but modern DNA testing has not definitively identified them as the princes. Richard's reign faced increasing opposition, especially from Lancastrian supporters who rallied around Henry Tudor, a distant relative of the Lancastrian line. Discontent grew further after the death of Richard's wife, Anne Neville, in March 1485, which led to rumors that Richard intended to marry his niece, Elizabeth of York. The climax of Richard III's story came on August 22, 1485, at the Battle of Bosworth Field. Richard's army, numbering around 10,000 men, faced Henry Tudor's smaller force of about 5,000. Despite his numerical advantage, Richard faced betrayal from key allies, including Lord Stanley, whose forces defected to Henry during the battle. In a dramatic final act, Richard led a cavalry charge directly at Henry Tudor, hoping to end the battle in a single blow. Though his charge was valiant, it ultimately failed. Richard was surrounded and killed, reportedly shouting, a horse, my kingdom for a horse," a line immortalized by Shakespeare. Richard's death marked the end of the Plantagenet dynasty and the beginning of the Tudor era. His body was hastily buried at Greyfriars Church in Leicester, where it remained hidden for over 500 years. In 2012, a team from the University of Leicester began excavating a car park believed to be the site of Greyfriars Church. Against all odds, they uncovered a skeleton with a curved spine. DNA testing confirmed the remains were those of Richard III. The analysis of Richard's remains revealed he suffered multiple fatal injuries, including a blow to the skull. His burial lacked the dignity typically afforded to kings, reflecting the chaos of his defeat. In 2015, Richard's remains were reburied with honor at Leicester Cathedral, drawing thousands of visitors. Richard III's story is one of triumph, tragedy, and mystery. A man who overcame physical challenges to become king, only to be vilified and ultimately defeated. Was he the villain history remembers, or was he a capable ruler maligned by Tudor propaganda? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into medieval history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Infinitia Verity. Your support helps us uncover more fascinating stories from the past. Until next time, keep seeking the truth.